So let's talk about the kind of underemployment that hides in plain sight. The kind where you're not unskilled, not incapable, but still end up working well below your abilities. Not because you failed, but because something inside you quietly said, I probably wouldn't be good enough for that anyway. This isn't laziness, this is fear. This is the slow, quiet erosion of self-trust, especially for INFJs. We've got these deeply intuitive, thoughtful, observant minds. We see what others miss, we feel what's unspoken, and we hold ourselves to a standard so high it would make a perfectionist sweat. And when it comes to showing up in the working world, sometimes we shrink, we hesitate, we play small. And sometimes we disqualify ourselves before the world even gets the chance. Sometimes we can read a job posting and feel exhausted before we even apply, because we don't just read it, we imagine it. We feel the pressure of it in our bones, and somewhere in that moment we decide we probably wouldn't measure up anyway. Or we imagine applying and the fear takes over. What if they ask us something we don't know? What if we're not really as capable as we think we are? Because deep down, many INFJs have a secret. We don't fully trust ourselves. And that's a strange paradox. We're intuitive, intelligent, highly capable, but we carry around this burden of doubt. We hesitate to say what we really want. We second guess what we feel. We bury our ideas before they can be judged. And then we call it being realistic. But really, it's fear disguised as logic. Perfectionism plays a big role. If we can't be amazing at something immediately, we start to believe we shouldn't even try. So we walk away from roles that require growth, risk, visibility, and stick with the safe jobs, the familiar ones, even if they leave us hollow. Underemployment isn't always a result of rejection. Sometimes it's self-imposed. We opt out before we get hurt. We lower the bar because we're afraid of what it would mean to try and fail. We've internalized this idea that we are too much and not enough all at the same time. Too sensitive to lead, too quiet to be heard, too thoughtful to survive in cutthroat spaces, but not assertive enough, not confident enough, not bold enough to claim our seat at the table. So we sit in the back of the room, smart, capable, full of insight, but silent. And over time, that silence can become a story. I'm just not meant for more. I wouldn't be able to handle it anyway. Someone else is probably better suited to that kind of job. And it's not just about the external world, it's internal. The real gatekeeper is often us. Our own fear, our conditioning, our low self-esteem, the voice in our head that says, don't get your hopes up, you know how this will end. So we keep ourselves small because small feels safe, even if it's painful. And for some of us, underemployment didn't begin in adulthood. It started in childhood, when we learned to play small to survive, when we were told directly or indirectly that our needs were too much, our talents weren't impressive, and our voices weren't really welcome. We learned to stay out of the spotlight, to avoid standing out, to not make waves. And even now as adults, that wiring lingers. We don't reach higher because a younger part of us still believes it's dangerous to be seen. So we keep choosing roles that feel safe, invisible, manageable, even if they leave us unfulfilled. And that's not a lack of ambition, that's trauma memory disguised as practicality. And let's talk about the sensitivity. INFJs don't just want any job, we want meaningful work, something with soul, something that aligns with our values. But the moment a job looks like it's going to require emotional disconnection, office politics, superficial conversations, or mindless busy work, we start to detach. Because we're not wired for performance sake. We crave purpose, not productivity alone. And that's another reason underemployment becomes the default. We walk away from opportunities that might offer more money, more status, if they don't feel emotionally sustainable. And sometimes we're right to walk away, but sometimes we use that as a shield, a way to stay out of sight, a way to avoid the risk of being truly seen and found wanting. And the irony? INFJs often have incredibly high standards for ourselves. We'll give 110% in the most thankless of roles. We'll overwork, overthink, and overdeliver in jobs we're overqualified for. Because even if the job is small, we still want to do it right. Even if the job is beneath our skills, we treat it like it matters. And yet, we rarely turn that care and devotion inward, rarely saying, I deserve better. Rarely trust our own potential enough to bet on it. Sometimes we don't believe we're allowed to want more. Other times we believe we couldn't handle more even if it landed in our lap. That's the self-doubt talking. That's the low-level hum of unworthiness that's been there for decades maybe. Some of us were never told we were allowed to dream big. Others were told we were too sensitive to make it in the real world. So we internalized all of it and we became realistic. But really, we just became afraid. And fear wears 1,000 masks. It's not the right time. I need more experience. I'm not a people person. I'm not a leader. I'm not ready. The truth is, we might never feel ready because readiness isn't a feeling, it's a choice. And INFJs, like us, have spent a lifetime analyzing the risks, running simulations in our heads, trying to predict every outcome before we make a move. But life does not work that way. Jobs don't wait for us to be perfect. Opportunities don't always come back around. We hold ourselves back with the best of intentions, but still we hold ourselves back. And then we wonder why we feel unfulfilled. We mourn the parts of ourselves that never got to stretch, the intelligence we never used, the creativity we buried under practical choices, the leadership we never stepped into, the calling we never trusted. But we didn't get here because we're weak. We got here because we've been told to doubt our instincts, told that what makes us powerful, our empathy, our depth, our insight, isn't marketable. And yet, those exact traits are what the world needs. INFJs don't lead like others. We don't bark orders or chase credit. We lead with vision, with conscience, and with care. But we can't lead anything if we don't believe we belong in the room. And we won't believe we belong in the room until we start trusting our own minds. Not just our intuition, but our worth. Not just our sensitivity, but our strength. There's a version of you that hasn't really been fully expressed yet. Not because you failed, but because you haven't felt safe to try. You're not underachieving because you're lazy. You're underachieving because somewhere along the way, you started believing you weren't enough. And now that belief is shaping your reality. But what if I said you are enough? Even in your uncertainty, even in your awkwardness, even when you don't have all the answers. Those jobs you're afraid to apply for, they don't need a perfect person, nor does that person even exist. They need someone thoughtful, capable, driven by something real. They need someone like you, but only you can decide to stop standing in your own way. You might fail, you might get rejected, you might find out the job isn't right, but you'll also find out that you can handle more than you think, that your ideas matter, that your intuition isn't a liability, it's a gift. You'll find out that what makes you different is exactly what makes you valuable. So now what? We start small. We stop disqualifying ourselves. We apply even if we don't meet all the requirements. We speak even if our voice shakes. We imagine bigger lives for ourselves, lives that feel like ours. We stop confusing humility with invisibility. We stop letting fear dress up as logic. We stop making ourselves smaller to make others more comfortable. We trust the deep part of ourselves that knows we're made for more than this. We stop waiting to feel ready. We start acting like we belong. And if we fail, we'll fail knowing we gave it a shot, not wondering what could have been. INFJs are not doomed to underemployment, but we do need to reclaim our worth, our confidence, our voice. We need to stop apologizing for our sensitivity and start leading with it. We need to remember that the world will never fully understand us, and that's okay, as long as we stop misunderstanding ourselves. We need to show up in this world as us, because this world needs us. You're not too sensitive, you're not too idealistic, you're not too much, and you're definitely not enough. You are exactly who you need to be. You just haven't fully believed it yet, but maybe it's time. Time to trust your gut, time to show up bigger, time to let your work reflect your soul. And maybe we don't get rich doing it, maybe we don't climb the ladder, but we stop climbing into places that crush our spirit just to say we made it. This isn't about giving up, it's about realigning, redefining what success looks like for a mind that works differently. We may not fit in the systems that exist, but we're more than capable of creating better ones. Systems with soul, work with meaning, lives that feel like us. You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're not too sensitive. You're just trying to bloom in soil that was never made for you, but you can still bloom.